The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to TechGeek webinar series, our endeavor to empower techies. We believe that sharing of knowledge is key to enhance our skills and grow as a professionals. With this principle in mind, we have initiated a series of webinars conducted by industry experts to give you all a crisp insight of various domains. The topic of today's session is Integrated Test Management Platform, the business value. Our guest speaker for today is Mr. Amit Dasgupta. He is Director, Product Development, Kovair Software Incorporation. Amit has been working with Kovair ALM products for past several years. He currently heads the development team for the ALM and Omnibus product line at Kovair and has been working on the product for last 10 years. He has been involved in architecture, design and development of Kovair ALM products. He has helped many customers discover the benefit of different aspects of ALM by designing, building and developing solutions for them. So without any further delay, I introduce you all to our guest speaker. Over to you, Mr. Amit.
Welcome everybody to this session of Integrated Test Management Platform. So just looking into the agenda, so directly before getting into the section of Integrated Test Management Platform, so we'll just cover a little bit of the history of testing, then evolution of different development methodologies, like how waterfall was there in the beginning and then it went to agile, and the current trend of development is agile, as we all know. Then the application development or testing challenges, the major challenges that we face today. And then we will look into the need for centralized visibility of the activities that are going on for application development. And at the end, we will look into the benefits of having an integrated framework. So to start with the history of testing. Now in the era of 1960s to 1980s, this testing phenomena in the entire life cycle was a constant. So the major attitude was from the developer's side that I have done the coding and now you want to test it, so why? We haven't got any time anyway. So they just give the excuse of time and was reluctant to get the software tested. Then in 1990s the scenario changed and testing then became a need. So we found that, okay, the testers, then the developers were a bit considerate and they considered that, okay, the testers may be right, and it looks that a nasty bug made its way into the live environment, and now customers are complaining. But after 2000, the entire scenario changed, and testers in today's world are much dominant, or you can say that much important, and they have become the asset of the organizations. So now the testers gives the pressure to the development that you should work the Hello.
We can hear you.
Can you hear me now? I think it again went to mute few minutes back. Yeah, it again went to mute few minutes
Yeah,
back.
we can hear you. We can hear you, Amit.
Okay. So as I was saying that the waterfall model is a sequential design process which is used in software development processes, in which progress is seen as flowing steadily downwards like a waterfall through the phases of analysis, design, development, testing and release. So the central idea behind it was that big design upfront and the waterfall model, that the time spent early on making sure requirements and design are correct will save much time and effort later. Thus the thinking of those who follow the waterfall process goes that make sure each phase is 100% complete and absolutely correct before moving to the next phase. So program requirements should be set in stone before design begins. So that was the actual motto of this waterfall model. But this phenomena created a schism in the technical community. There were the elite architects, designers, and system analyst who did the real engineering by satisfying the first two phases of the waterfall, which is analyze and design. And then there were the developers and testers who actually had to make everything work in the final phase. So when the project got behind schedule, it was the developers and testers who worked overtime, and when the project failed, then on the other side it was the developers and testers who bore the blame of the failure. So with all these things, some of the major disadvantages of waterfall model, let's look into that. The testing is kept as a last phase in the life cycle. So that means that until the final stage of development cycle is complete, testing does not start. And thus, a working model of the software does not lie in the hands of the client. Thus, the customer is hardly in a position to inform the developers if what has been designed is exactly what they have asked for. It does not allow for much reflection and revision, which means that once an application is in the testing stage, it is very difficult to go back and change something that was not well thought out in the concept stage. Often the client is not very clear of what he exactly wants from the software, and thus any changes that he mentions in between may cause a lot of confusion. And all these things, the lack of these above mentioned things leads to high amount of risk and uncertainty. Also, this model came out to be poor for long and ongoing projects, because for long and ongoing projects with the traditional waterfall model of software development, one will typically spend months specifying requirements, then months defining the user acceptance test plan, then months developing the code, months for designing the user interface, then testing the code, months debugging the code, etc. And by the time you are done, if the project hasn't run out of cash, then the finished product is often obsolete or fails to meet the expectations, because end users were not involved in the process and didn't give any feedback along the way. So all these things cater to the longer time to the market. So waterfall model at times not only make the final product obsolete, but also this long process makes the time to the market for the software longer. So now the question that must be bothering you is that with so many disadvantages at hand, what could be, in spite of all the constraints, the main pros of this model ensure that it remains one of the most popular models used in the field of software development till now. But what happened next? Next came the need to change. Why? Because with increasing market competition, the customer demands, the current demand came to the industry was need to reach to the market faster with quality. So that means that currently one cannot afford to bring up a product in the market after consuming a lot of time in development and testing and bug fixing. So everything needs to come first, and not only come first, but come first with quality in a bug-free manner. So that gives rise, or that introduce the industry to this agile methodology. In agile development, what happens? It provides the opportunities to assess the direction throughout the development lifecycle. And this is achieved through regular cadences of work known as sprints or iterations, at the end of which teams must present a potentially shippable product increment. By focusing on the repetition of abbreviated work cycles as well as functional product they yield, agile methodology is also described as iterative and incremental. So unlike the waterfall model where developments only have one chance to get each aspect of a project right, in an agile paradigm, every aspect of development, requirements, design, etc. is continually revisited. So when a team stops and reevaluates the direction of a project every 2 weeks, there is a time to steer it in another direction. And this inspect and adapt approach to development greatly reduces development costs and time to market. And because teams can develop software at the same time they are gathering requirements, analysis paralysis is less likely to impede a team from making progress. And because a team's work cycle is limited to 2 weeks, stakeholders have recurring opportunities to calibrate releases for success in the real world. So how is testing getting done in agile methodology? Cross-functional teams including testers. So what does that mean? So agile testing may have similar aims as traditional software testing, but the structure of the team or the concept of the team formation has become different. Now testers are normally embedded in the agile project team, working alongside the developers and business users to ensure each release is tested early and often. So obviously you can understand that nowadays with this concept or this philosophy of agile based development, testing is no longer left for the last phase of the project, but being a part of the cross-functional team, testing is now or has got introduced or gets introduced much early into the life cycle. All this process of development or these different phases of development in this world of agile is no more sequential but continuous. Then the regression testing or extensive regression testing came into place. So agile projects are iterative, as we said, and each release needs structured testing. But as a result, there are more testing phases in agile projects than traditional or waterfall projects. Each time a release is tested, the team reviews the code from the previous phases to ensure that everything still works as intended. And many of these testing tasks are repetitive. And analysts like Forrester also recommends that automating the mundane task because on an automation of this mundane task, because on an agile project the testing time is compressed. So the more the automation you can adopt, the more your project team can focus on the tasks that really matter and the essential tests that cannot be automated, which means that extensive regression testing and automation testing is now mandatory in the worlds of agile. Certain new methods of testing has also got introduced. So nowadays a tester's responsibility is not just to find defects. His or her job is to improve the quality of what the team is delivering. A tester is a part of the team that is delivering the scope in that particular iteration or value stream. So a tester cannot be pointing fingers at the developer anymore. So if he or she sees that a developer is not clear about a functionality, he or she should clear it from them or for them. A tester needs to think like the user. They are the closest to the functional user using the team. So some new concepts got introduced like TDD or test-driven development and risk-based testing. So one approach to this agile testing is this test-driven development. This is a practice where the tests are written before the program code. So the developers design the code for testing. So it's just the way around. That means that now developers will not write the code first, but testers will write the test cases first or write the test first, and the developer needs to write the code to satisfy those test cases. So however, research from BTT Technical Research Center of Finland shows that it can be difficult to get teams to adopt this way of working. Developers often like and need the flexibility to code the way that works for them and the software so that they can be reluctant to adopt any method that constricts this. And then on the risk-based testing, so what is this risk-based testing? Risk-based testing is about being able to apply risk factors to the project requirements and use cases to determine where you should focus your testing effort. Agile projects work to fix deadlines, and it is impossible to test everything as thoroughly as you would perhaps like. It's also costly to let testing phases run on and on. And as you can't test everything, so risk-based testing helps you to decide what to test and in what order. The priority list comes from applying risk factors to the test itself and the requirements being tested. And an automated testing tool allows you to schedule tests according to the risk and quality factors so that the most important tests are done first. This allows the team focus on any areas of high risk, ensure that they have enough time to remedy in this short span of the sprints. So major challenges, I mean, though Agile came into picture and now the products are coming faster to the market with this concept of continuous delivery or continuous build and testing, are all the changes gone? Are we now absolutely okay with whatever we are doing? No. The challenges are still there. So what are the major challenges for now? It's globally distributed teams, which means that currently what happens that, as we all know, that the teams are distributed globally across globally. So as a reason for that, communication between these teams has become very complicated. I mean, it is very hard for people having staying in different time zones to communicate with each other. So then another major challenge that is there now is this concept of manual handoff process, which means that currently what happens, let's say a testing development is complete, so that needs to be manually informed by the developer to the tester that, okay, my development is complete, now you can go and do the testing. Similarly, when the design is complete, that handoff needs to be done manually. Or let's say some design thing changed in between the development, and if that is not propagated properly to the testing team, or if the knowledge is properly not transferred to the testing team, then what happens? The testing gets diverted and they test one thing, whereas the ultimate product is having something different. The other challenge is this cross-vendor tools for different functions. So as you can see in the picture also, that the person who is using various tools for various functionalities or activities of the life cycle is completely confused and completely puzzled that which tool to access for what function and which information to update. So it sometimes happens that they may be doing, that the user may be doing something on platform D or tool D, and he needs to update certain information of it in platform B, but misses to do it. So that means it can lead to lack of information, missing information, for which from the management perspective, it is very hard to figure out that what testing progress is there, how many test cases have been written for the requirements, how many has been executed, or what are the defect status. So this type of information is very difficult to gather when there is this cross-vendor tools for various functions are getting used. The last or the major last challenge is labor-intensive cross-tool reporting. So as you can see that the manager is running from desk to desk just to understand that what amount of work has got completed. So from where some party is gathering that, okay, the design is 60% complete, the development says that, okay, the development is 40% complete, because we know that in Agile or in today's date of development, everything goes in parallel, right? So he's running from desk to desk to gather those information, then spending some haunting nights to get those information together and then put it in front of the management to make them understand that, okay, this is the progress of the project or where we are. So with all these challenges, then what is the solution? What is the solution for this entire thing? The solution is that there should be a unified development platform. So that means a good test management or a centralized tool that can link all these things together to provide a centralized view of the software testing. At the end of the iteration, you should know how many tests were carried out, the defects to be rectified, and their severity. The centralized tool should be flexible enough to interface with other products and support agile ways of working. It is really important that the tool you choose fits well with your current infrastructure and suits the needs of a multifunctional team to ensure collaboration and control. Then it should be available anytime and anywhere. That means wherever you are or whenever you are, irrespective of the time zone or irrespective of anything, you should have access to that tool so that you can have a grip or you can have control on the entire progress of the life cycle. Then automated workflow with notification. So what is that? So this tool should have something or should have an automated workflow wherein when one activity gets completed, the owner of the segment activity automatically gets informed. That means the owner don't need to jump around for information that whether the owner needs to start the work or not. And then cross-tool end-to-end reporting. So one of the major difficulties that we saw when we are using this disjointed software development environment is this difficulty or problem of low visibility into project status, impact of changes, and release predictability. Then this difficulty in linking and tracing artifacts across differently structured repositories. So this tool or this solution that we are talking about should be capable of having the facility of providing cross-tool end-to-end traceability so that from a central place you can actually monitor the coverage of different artifacts, though they reside in different storages of different structure. Then real-time reports based on cross-tool data. This is another thing which is very important, as we know that in this era of cross-tool or cross-vendor tool development, there is a very big problem of low visibility into the project status. So this solution or this centralized tool should have the capability to provide that. So this integrated framework, and we can surely claim that if we have this integrated framework in place where there is everybody will be happy. That means all the stakeholders are happy. And that's what the picture depicts, that happy stakeholders working happily to create a happy software. So over here you can see that the ease of configuration and customization, that means the tool should be easy to configure and customize. The solution should be very easy for personalization or productivity. It should enforce policy, provide insights, and should be adaptable by the users. Then the developer should also be happy. So just imagine the life of a developer who just sits on his IDE and gets to view all the artifacts from different tools. So let's say his requirements, the requirements on which the developer is working, that requirement may reside in a different tool. Then the testing is getting done by the testers in a different tool. So and the defects are getting also raised in, let's say, tool 3. But the life of the developer will definitely become easy if the developer can view all of these things from a centralized place, or rather from the IDE, which is the most comfortable place for the developer. Then for this support current and future requirements. So this tool should be able to support all these different types of requirements and should be easy to modify the documents and the standards. So this tool should not be something that it forces you to abide by the way the tool is configured, but allows you to configure the tool in a way in which you work. That means the tool is not controlling you, or the solution is not controlling you, but you are controlling that particular solution. And that is why we term it as integrated framework rather than terming it as a single point solution. Because you can, using this framework, you can configure the entire thing as per your business rules. So integrated test management platform. Why is this needed, or this test management framework, why is this needed? We can say that it is a comprehensive platform for managing the entire test cycle where multiple teams from multiple locations use multiple tools of multiple vendors for multiple ALM functions, including test management. So with that, now let us see a probable tool or one of the tools that can solve all your problems. So for that, I would like to show you or give you a brief idea on this Kovair integrated ALM and test management framework. So what does Kovair do? Kovair has this integrated test management platform in the center, and then you can pull all your data related to requirements management from different tools like JAMA, RRC, RecPro, DOORS, or the Kovair requirements management itself. Then from design, for the design or code management, the data can be pulled out from the best of the breed design or code management tools like Visual Studio, SonarQube, Eclipse, RSA, Enterprise Architect. So the configuration management, again a set of tools like SVN, Git, RTC, and TFS. You can bring in those data. Data can come from these build management tools like Hudson, MS Build, and Jenkins, or Ant. Then for the test management also, we have a test management piece of our own. But other than that, you can also, since automation is so necessary, so you can also execute the automated test cases in tools like Selenium and QTP and bring the results of those test cases into the central platform. And then for defect management, you can also use the Kovair defect management solution or other solutions, defect management solutions from Jira, Findbugs, or Bugzilla. And when all this data comes or passes through this central repository, which is Kovair, you can use that data to analyze, plan, execute, evaluate, and act upon. And for doing that, we provide you with a cross-tool traceability facility. There is a facility for reporting wherein, using all these data coming from various tools, you can generate different metrics or the different useful metrics of test management, like how many test cases has been executed, what is the test case failure rate, then how many defects are there, distributed by their priority, and all those things. You can also use those reports. You can create different, by using those reports you can create different dashboards, which is very customer friendly. So as you can see that the challenges that we talked about, so with this information, or with this Kovair integrated test management platform, you can solve all those challenges by bringing in data from various tools in a central repository. And Kovair is a web-based solution and gets support and can be accessed through different browsers like Chrome, IE, and Firefox. So that way it is also available anytime and anywhere. So then coming to the next one, which is the Kovair test management. So let us see that how it fits into the scenario. So it allows creation of test cases traceable to requirements in the system. It allows to import test cases from Excel. It provides a collaborative way of approving the test cases. It supports reusing a test case as a part of another test case. Then it allows managing both manual and automated tests. That means manages multiple versions of test runs for each test case and test script, because we all know that a test case can be executed multiple times. Then automates the test scheduling and running of test cases in batches. Automates defect capturing from failed test cases into Kovair or other repository. Kovair also has a seamless bidirectional integration with tools like Jira, HPQC, RQM, TestLink, RFT, QTP, and Selenium. And it also reflects results of automated scripts executed in tools like QTP and Selenium. With Kovair, provides real-time reports and dashboards reflecting status of test cases, and also it has the traceability with other artifacts of ALM. So with all these, let us look into the Kovair integrated testing platform. It is not limited within testing, but it cut across the different areas of the total application lifecycle management. So let's say what happens that in a project, let's say the project is in the center, and with the help of this Kovair integration platform, what happens, let's say the business analyst is doing the requirements management in some of the tools, which then flows into the central repository, gets tested in using Kovair test management or any other test management tool by the tester. And then from there, automatically when the testing is completed, and the defects gets raised, and those defects can be stored in Kovair or any other defect management tool. And using your project scheduling, using the project scheduling capabilities of Kovair, you can actually control this whole process, plan this whole process, starting from requirements to this defect management. And in this process, with the help of the task-based workflow engine which Kovair provides, you can actually notify each of the stakeholders as and when they need to work automatically with the help of a mail-based notification, or by putting a task in their to-do list, which may be viewed from Outlook or which may be viewed from Kovair itself. And with all this, Kovair has ensured this ensured support for this continuous delivery scenario, you can say, in terms of DevOps. So you can see in the picture that the developer, let's say, is developing a code in Eclipse, and as soon as the code is getting checked to some source control management tool like SVN or something, a build gets fired in Hudson, and when the build is completed, then using the Kovair deployment adapter or Kovair deployment tool, it gets deployed in some of the servers. So this way, Kovair ensures that this continuous build or continuous delivery is achieved. With that, we will go to a sample integration scenario. So let's say that we have IBM doors for managing the requirements. And once these requirements are approved, it comes to Kovair. Why? For creation of those test cases and getting the test management done. So when using this Kovair Omnibus engine is there in the middle, and with the help of this adapter, it is integrating with the doors tool. That means this adapter is using two-way interfaces in which on one side it is interacting with doors using the APIs or the exposed APIs rather by doors, and on the other side it is interacting with the common interface of Omnibus to establish this relationship. And then again on the other side there is the Eclipse. So now when the requirements are approved, this developer sitting on or working on Eclipse can view these requirements of doors right within inside the Eclipse tool, which means that he now don't need to log in to doors to look into the requirements or to the details of the requirements. From Eclipse only, the developer can view the requirements which are actually residing on doors. And once he views those requirements, he writes the code and checks in those files at SVN. So what happens that as soon as the code is checked in SVN, then an automatic build gets fired at Hudson. And all this information through their corresponding adapters is getting flown to Kovair. So this build fires in Hudson, and if the build passes, then it gets deployed into the server. And when it gets deployed into the by the time it gets deployed into the server, we can understand that the test cases are written in Kovair, the test steps are also prepared, and now the execution starts. So you can see the arrow from here that when the deployment is done, immediately the test gets executed in the form of test runs. And then if it fails, it will raise a defect, and this defect will then automatically get raised in the tool like Jira or let's say Kovair. So what happens in this scenario, you can see that this particular user who is accustomed with doors, he doesn't need to worry about that where the code is getting written or whether who is writing the code, where it is getting checked in, where it is getting deployed or things like that. But he can view, you can directly view that when against the requirements that are there in doors, how many defects are there, though the defects are residing at Jira. So that is the beauty of this integrated framework. And then from the management perspective, who are using this Kovair centralized central repository based tool to view all these artifacts, so they are quite reluctant to know, or they are not bothered about, you can say, that to know that which tools are getting used and by whom they are getting used and what is the stage of them or at what stage they are currently. From here in a centralized place, the users, the managers can view that okay, those many requirements has been approved, the code has been written for these many requirements or development is undergoing for those many requirements, then how many test cases has been prepared for each of these requirements, whether they have been executed or not, and if executed, then how many defects are there. And let's say now the developer sitting in Eclipse after viewing the defect which is actually residing at Jira writes the code to fix it, and then the code again, and after fixing it checks in the code, and then it again goes through the entire life cycle, and the defect gets retested by the user, the tester, and gets closed. So once the defect gets closed, immediately that data also gets reflected within Kovair. That means that when you have this centralized integrated framework, so without getting or without losing any time to figure out that where the information is or how the information is getting stored, you get to see everything from a central location, and you can manage or control all this from a central location. So you have your traceability, you have this end-to-end coverage, you have your test related artifacts over there, you have the code related things. So now let's say if a change request comes in, so the biggest challenge that comes in that, okay, I have this change request in hand, but if I go ahead and implement this change request, then which code files will be affected or which test cases will be affected. So all these problems can be taken care of using this centralized tool of Kovair or this integrated test platform provided by Kovair, because it gives you the impact that whenever a requirement gets changed, automatically the test author or the author of the test cases which are associated with the requirement gets the notification that the requirement has changed, and now you need to go ahead and take care of the impact in the test cases by changing the test cases. So with that, we will move into the key references. So I think now we could establish a story that why, or now we saw that in this agile world, when everything needs to be done faster, and not only faster but with quality, we still have some challenges to cater to. And with this centralized integrated test framework, which has the capability of integrating with different cross-vendor tools, provides you the ability to manage all these things from a central platform perspective. So these are some of the key references where you can actually view all the things, or if you want to have more information about Kovair. So the Kovair test management web page, here you will get the entire picture of the test management solution that Kovair provides. Then the Kovair test management brochure. So this link, the Kovair, here you will be able to download the test management related brochure that Kovair has. So you will get to have all the things over there. Then Kovair test management video. So if you have any, if you would like to go through the video of the entire Kovair test management solution, you can have a look into that video in this particular URL, which is available in YouTube. So with that, I think I'm done and would like to go to the question and answer panel. So let me just see that what questions are there. So can we use, I think this is a,
Sorry to interrupt you, Amit. There are a
yeah,
lot of questions which are coming. So I
yes.
have shared few of them with you. Right.
So
So you
yeah,
can. So what you need to do, you need to read out the question first, and probably you can answer them as well. Right? Yeah. Please go ahead,
okay,
Mr. Amit.
yeah, sure. So I have a question from Sushant Misra. So the question is that can we use ALM to follow agile lifecycle in terms of creating epic, story and task, and can we generate different reports like burn down, burn up charts out of it? So the answer is yes. So Kovair is a platform which supports both waterfall methodology and as well as agile methodology. So as I said that since it is a type of a platform and everything is configurable by simple mouse clicks, so you can configure all, you can create your objects, you can create the relationship between the objects, you can create the artifacts between the objects, and using that you can actually support, I mean you can actually develop your projects using both waterfall model as well as agile under the same umbrella. So you may have different projects following different methodologies. You can accommodate all of those in Kovair. And the next question is that, as you said, developers should follow test cases to develop their code. Is it really follows in real life of agile practice? Yeah, so that's a very interesting question, that whether it gets really followed in real life for agile practices. So as I said also that this is an approach which came to the market as TDD, but obviously it is not very popular, because sometimes, as I said, that if we look into the research from this VTT Technical Research Center of Finland, so it says that yeah, it is not that popular, but in some cases it definitely gets followed in the it definitely gets followed in the industry. So then Kovair tool is only for test management or test, or both test and development? Can we manage different builds through Kovair? Again, the answer is yes. So as I was saying, that it is not confined to only test management, but you can cater to all the aspects of the application lifecycle management, which is requirements management, then development management. But for development management, since Kovair do not have any IDE of its own, it has integrations with other top of the market IDEs like Visual Studio, then Eclipse, and the beauty of the integration that Kovair has with these IDEs is that it provides a plugin through which the developer can do everything from their own IDEs. And you can obviously do your different build, I mean do your build management in Kovair. So for that we have integration with certain build related tools, and using those integrations from Kovair centrally you can actually maintain the different versions of the builds, then what is the status of the build, whether the build succeeded or failed, and if failed then what are the defects that got raised for the build. So these type of things can be taken care of in Kovair. So Kovair is not only a test management solution, it is a solution that supports all the phases of application lifecycle management, maybe through its own modules or maybe through integration with some other tools. So then the next question is, can I integrate HPALM or QC to automatically defect trace process if a particular test case gets failed during test run? Again, the answer is yes. So through the integration that we have, what you can do that, let's say you have your test cases in HPLM or QC, and then as soon as you run those test cases, and let's say if any of those test cases fails, then you can automatically, using the business rule engine of Kovair, what you can do, you can create a defect within Kovair, or you can create a defect within any other defect management tool. So that means you don't need to, once the test case fails, you don't need to go manually and then enter a defect, because there again there is a risk that, okay, if I may have, the test case may have failed, but I forgot to raise the defect. So what happens, using that business rule engine, you can automatically create those defects, and when creating those defects, you can pass some information of the you can pass some information of the test case to the defects also. Okay, so there is another question from Yogesh Sejwakar, that test from Team Foundation server, I think it would be, also has linking abilities. What additional benefits you would like to tell about Kovair? Yeah, we understand that TFS also has linking abilities, but let's say I am doing my requirements management in a non-Microsoft tool, right? Or if I am doing a development, if I am writing a code in a non-Microsoft tool, not in Visual Studio, then my question is, but let's say I am maintaining the source code in TFS. I may be checking in the code in TFS, but I'm using the SCM tool, but let's say I'm doing the build in some other tool like SVN, right? So when we are talking about these cross-vendor tools, which may include some legacy tools, some homegrown tools, or open source tools, then my return question is that, will TFS be able to do that? I don't think so. So that is where the benefit of Kovair comes in. That the integration that Kovair provides, it is completely vendor neutral integration. So irrespective of the source of the tool or the vendor of the tool, you can integrate the artifacts, you can create the relationships, you can view the traceability between the artifacts of these different tools. So the next question is, while generating report via Kovair, user will have a built-in query generator to pull precise information. Okay, so here the thing is that the user don't even need to write a full-fledged query in the tool. What they can do, they can just select the artifact, and they can just select some of the attributes of the artifacts as per the need of the report and get those reports generated. So Kovair has certain attribute types called calculated field and summary field, wherein what you can do, you can create a field which will not display a value that is getting directly entered by the user, but it will be a calculated value based on the attribute values of many other attributes. Right. So then the summary field allows you to roll up the data. So let's say at the requirements level, though it is related to the code files, then the source files, and then it is related to the test cases which are related to the defects. But from the requirements level, you can actually pull in the number of defects and all those, or you can roll up the data using this summary field. And using these different types of fields, you can actually build up a query to pull out the reports out of the system. So then the other question is, can I control execution and automation of test cases in other tools like QTP from Kovair? So the answer is yes. So what you can do, let's say you have written certain scripts in Selenium, or you have written certain automation scripts in QTP, and now you have your test cases associated with those scripts in Kovair. So it is not necessary that you need to open up those automation tools and execute those automation scripts, but instead what you can do is, from Kovair, you just right click on the test case and then say and then say what to say, I mean, right click on the test case, and if you say execute, based on that whether the test case is a manual test case or automated test case, it will automatically trigger the corresponding action. So if it is an automated test case which is having a script that is written in QTP, then it will execute the test case in QTP or the test script in QTP and will pull in the results from there. Again, on the other hand, if that test case has a script which is written at Selenium, then it will invoke Selenium, will get the test script executed and pull in the results from there. So that is a very big advantage which Kovair integration provides. Okay, then linking is different and preparing RTM is different. Can I create such RTM in Kovair, at least view? Yes, you can. Actually, you can create those views. And not only you can create those views, but also we have a support for custom crystal reports. So if you create any custom crystal report by writing certain stored procedures or something, after we share you the data structure, then you can even upload those reports into the application and keep it for further view, right? So that way you can actually create the RTMs in Kovair and view them, right? So I think, Gaurav, any other questions?
I think we got a lot of questions, and I will mail all those questions to you.
Yeah, so that would be great.
Right. So I really thankful to you for conducting this webinar. It was indeed a great session. I would also like to thank all our participants for their support in making this webinar a success. The recording of this webinar will be available on techgeek.com by tomorrow. Thank you all.
Okay.